856-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
Welcome to the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared on Blitz Sports Radio. We got an hour of recruiting conversation for you. Got a special guest coming up. One of the hottest teams in the SEC right now in recruiting, the LSU Tigers under first-year head football coach Brian Kelly. Still having to get used to saying that with what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame, getting them to the BCS National Championship game in 2012 before they were flattened by Alabama, but he still got Indy back there. Certainly Alabama in the 20 season with the COVID year, also with the dominating performance over Notre Dame, but still Indy was in the college football playoff. He's the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. People don't really, a lot of times they forget about that because, again, even with the rich history of Notre Dame, which they're on the clock. They haven't won anything since 1988. Personally, I love it because I'm not a Notre Dame guy, but they do have a very, very rich tradition in college football. At one time, they were the tradition. Not anymore. It's the University of Alabama. But Notre Dame, was really the standard when you talked about college football for many, many years through the 1970s and even into the 80s with Lou Holtz at the helm. But they've fallen back. But Brian Kelly resuscitated that program. It's going to be interesting to see what Marcus Freeman can do with them. But now, Brian Kelly, he felt like, I think, I believe he was there 13 years, decided that he needed to move on from the Irish because he had, just been able to take them about as far as he could. And I still think the toughest league in America, the toughest division in college football, the SEC West, the toughest conference is the SEC. And Brian Kelly wanted to, test his wares. He's won, 2 national titles on the Division II level, but he wants to ultimately cement his, career as a college football Hall of Famer, and to do that, he could win yet another national championship. Because let's not forget, under 3 different head coaches, Nick Saban in 2003, in 2007, the Hat, Les Miles, 2019, Ed Orgeron, of all people. LSU has won 3 national championships. This is a championship program when they have the right coach or the right mix of players. And Brian Kelly wanting to cap his outstanding career. I've made the statement that I didn't think he was an elite coach, and until he wins one on the Power 5 level, I think that's still the case. But still, when you look at his career, he has won at the highest level from the standpoint of everywhere he's been. And he's one of the long line of coaches that have been to Cincinnati and won big. And now we see what Luke Fickell's doing with that program. I still believe Luke Fickell should be the head coach of The Ohio State University. But again, he's done that at Cincinnati on the Power 5. Well, again, they're more group of 5. Let me say that. But he used that his success at Cincinnati to go to Notre Dame to get that program back to being nationally relevant again, because really it had fallen on hard times. He did a great job at Notre Dame, and now going to try to get LSU back on track after the 2 years and the fallout from the 2019 dream season for LSU. LSU, we had Matt Moscona on Talking Ball this morning. He called the culture toxic by the time Ed Orgeron was done ruining LSU's program, much like he did Ole Miss's. Ed Orgeron, not a head football coach, one of the great defensive line coaches of his era, and a great recruiter. Because let's not misunderstand anything. Ed Orgeron can recruit. He can't manage a program. He can't hire coordinators unless he gets lucky, like he did with Joe Brady. And he, of course, inherited Dave Aranda, who's done an amazing job as the Baylor head football coach thus far. But again, Ed Orgeron can recruit, because LSU goes 6-7 a year ago with a losing record. Yet they did beat Dirt Neck. That was the highlight of the season, beating Jimbo Fisher, most overrated coach in college football, along with David Shaw. Got to throw that in there. But again, they had 10 guys drafted and that's just an amazing run. Shows you the talent level that LSU still had. Even though LSU, by the end of the season, I think they had 39 scholarship players. They lost the bowl game. But again, still supreme talent at LSU. So Brian Kelly, he's put together an interesting staff of mix of guys that know his system, guys like Frank Wilson who are very, very ingrained in the culture of Louisiana and can recruit that state. They've been on a hot streak lately, and we're going to talk about that with 24/7 Sports' Sonny Shipp, who's been covering LSU for 20-plus years. No one more well-versed, especially when it comes to following recruiting for the Bayou Bengals, and we're looking forward in a few minutes to having him be a part of the conversation here on the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared on Blitz Sports Radio. But again, you can give us a call, 256-576-4977 on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline if you want to be a part of the Recruiting Blitz. We're in our third week. We're really excited of the direction of now our sister station, Blitz Sports Radio. And don't forget the app. The app is live for those of you, and iPhone Nation is vast. I'm part of it. You can now, via Apple, go to the Apple Store and download the app, the Blitz Sports Radio, from here in Huntsville, Alabama. You can also, it's been for about over a week now, available via Android. But again, it's now live on Apple, so you can go to Google Store, at the Apple Store, download the app for the Blitz Sports Radio. And also don't forget our afternoon show, our daily show, 5 days a week, the Blitz, with our compadres. They do a great job. Captain Cool, John Abraham, you got the Bandy Man, you got the Bailey Lowry, and then you got, of course, Smokey Mike Honcho, producer extraordinaire on this show, and, of course, a part of the daily show on the Blitz. So that's from 2 to 4 each Monday through Friday. And, again, you're going to have the Recruiting Blitz every morning from 9 to 10 a.m., always going to feature a special guest. We've had some great ones thus far, and, again, today we're going to have Sonny Shipp into the conversation to talk about LSU. They've now reached number 6 in the 24/7 composite recruiting rankings, and they really look like they're building a strong class under Brian Kelly in his first full season. I still think, and I predicted this in Atlanta, many had LSU 4th, 5th in the SEC West. I picked them 2nd. I think coaching matters because Ed Ogeron, the meathead that he was, did not prepare the program very well. He caught lightning in a bottle. He did not know what he had with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, one of the all-time greats, a guy like a Tim Tebow that you got to have ultimate respect for. You've already seen what Joe has done in the NFL, getting the Cincinnati Bengals back to the Super Bowl, nearly winning it all. And so he's just been an amazing, story. He was lounging on the bench for Urban Meyer at Ohio State, wasn't playing. He goes to LSU, wins the Heisman Trophy, brings a 3rd national championship since the year 2000, or really since 2003, to LSU, and so becomes a legend in the Pelican State. And again, now Brian Kelly trying to get LSU back there. And an interesting development this week. I mean, I personally thought in Atlanta that Miles Brennan from Gulfport, Mississippi, had a chance in his 6th year to be the starting quarterback for LSU. Had a lot of bad luck injury-wise. Had the unusual abdominal injury in 2020 when LSU, though they weren't playing great overall football, he was, though. 11 touchdowns, 3 picks, 1,200 yards or whatever passing, averaging nearly 400 yards passing per game. And then he gets that unusual injury. He misses it. Then he was, I think, the favorite to be the starter going into Coach O's last year, a season ago. He trips over a board with his flip-flop and breaks his arm, out for the season, and then comes back. He's in the transfer portal, decides to come back. Brian Kelly brings him back. And yet, I guess from what they saw out of him, they weren't confident he'd be the starter, so they go and get Jaden Daniels, who had a good start to his career, with Herman Edwards at Arizona State, but, had kind of run into plateaued a little bit, was erratic a year ago, 10 touchdowns, 10 picks, but a supreme athlete. Brian Kelly goes to get him. He's got also Garrett Nussmeier, a young quarterback who played a little last year, but for the most part redshirted, a guy that his dad, Doug Nussmeier, helped Alabama win a national championship in 2012, was the OC in 2013, then moved on to Michigan's now in the National Football League. So Doug Nussmeier, was a great quarterback at Idaho in his own right and in the NFL. But his son Garrett is now competing with Jaden Daniels. And I think when Miles Brennan was told he was third string, didn't have a shot, decides to move on from football. We'll see if ultimately that's what he decides to do, if he doesn't try to, transfer to a smaller school to finish his career. That could possibly happen. But when you look at it, he already had several NIL deals in place. He still gets that money. He recently got engaged, did Miles Brennan. He loves to hunt and fish. So he may just move on with his life. And certainly he stayed with LSU. He was loyal, part of that national championship team. Was recruited by Les Miles and Cam Cameron to show you how long he'd been on campus at LSU. So it was a star-crossed experience and career for Miles Brennan. But he stayed at LSU, stayed loyal. But now moving on, and it's a Jaden Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier battle. I know it's been reported that Jaden has been named the starter by one outlet, but I don't think that's completely the truth right now. I think it's still an ongoing competition. And again, Jaden Daniels is erratic as a passer. We'll see. Can he get the ball to Keyshawn Butte, who had a breakout, end of the 2019 season, was off to a good start in 20 before he got injured near the end of that COVID, near the end of the year. And so, again, we'll see. Because I think Butte is extremely talented, and he's coming off an Achilles injury. He and Miles Brennan had really good chemistry, I think, and it started off strong. And so I just wonder, though, what kind of career now that an end of his career. Because again, if Butte has the kind of season anticipated, he will move on to the NFL. But he was very productive with Max Johnson at times, very productive, with Miles Brennan when Brennan was healthy. But let's see, how healthy Butte is, how productive he is. But again, he was off to a really good start and finished strong in the 20 season. And then again, last year, let me correct myself, he gets the Achilles injury early and misses the year. So we'll see. But Keyshawn Butte, a very, very good player. Keyshawn missed the majority of the year last year after he got injured. And there was thoughts that he was going to go into the transfer portal, but he lined up some NIL deals. That was one of Brian Kelly's biggest wins, getting Keyshawn Butte to stay. But Max Johnson moves on to Texas A&M to play for Dirt Neck, a.k.a. Jimbo Fisher, and see if he can, restart his career. And so he moves on from LSU. And now Miles Brennan, does as well. So it's going to be either Jaden Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier. Jaden Daniels has ability and definitely has mobility. And LSU, biggest question for them going into Brian Kelly's first year is the offensive line. Will Campbell, freakazoid recruit, 5-star, looks like he's going to start at left tackle for the Bayou Bengals as a true freshman. But they had really all 5 offensive line spots open going into training camp. Looks like that's starting to solidify itself, but that's the big question for LSU is offensively. I think they've really, they brought in, a new defensive coordinator, a new staff on that side of the ball, and I know that they needed more direction because it just did not go well once Dave Aranda left. Dave Aranda was kind of like Stonewall Jackson there at LSU, such a stabilizing force, and so now they bring in Matt House. They've got a new defensive coordinator who I think can help LSU be elite. I think they've got as good a defensive line potentially as you could have in the SEC. That's a Jaquelin Roy, Mason Smith inside, the ends, B.J. Ojolari, and, of course, Ali Gay. And then, they brought in a lot of transfers, some talent in the secondary, Joe Fouché from Arkansas, just some guys with experience. So going to really talk to Sonny Shipp about that. This defense could be sneaky good, one of the best, I think, in the SEC, no doubt about it. And LSU's always had talent. It's just always come down to coaching, and coaching matters, and there's no doubt about that. And I truly believe that they are to me, a sleeper team in the Southeastern Conference and can be right behind Alabama. I still think it's a very dangerous road trip for the Crimson Tide. Anytime you play in Tiger Stadium, though at times Alabama could pay property taxes there, it's still one of the best environments in college football, so electric. And again, if Brian Kelly, who I thought was an underrated recruiter at Notre Dame, some don't consider him elite, but he got a lot of good players there. If he can control the state of Louisiana for the most part, you're not going to get every kid. And they lost Eli Holstein, of course, who's from Zachary, who's leaving the state, going to Alabama. They didn't get Arch Manning, but come on, the Manning family, they're not going to send one of their kids to LSU with all the ties to Ole Miss. That rivalry is still very heated. But again, I think when you look at LSU, if they can control the majority of kids in the state of Louisiana, they're going to be very, very good. I think Brian Kelly understands that. Brian Kelly knows how to run a program. And now he's going to be given even more tools and in a state, which is very interesting because they're the only show in town Power 5-wise as far as in Louisiana. Most kids grow up there wanting to put on the purple and gold. They don't really have any other competition in state. And so it's been proven. Nick Saban started it when he went there in 2000, and by year 4, he wins a national championship. But, if you control the state of Louisiana and the talent there, you can win at the highest level. There's no doubt about it. And I think LSU has got a chance to be really good this year. I think 9 wins with a 10th being in a bowl game is still doable, especially if they can get consistent quarterback play. And Brian Kelly, I think, unlike Dirtneck, a.k.a. Jimbo Fisher, who I think his acumen with QBs is overrated, I think Brian Kelly's is underrated. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with Jaden Daniels and maybe make him more consistent as a quarterback for the LSU Tigers and eventually maybe win that starting job. So looking forward to that, no doubt about it, and looking forward in a couple of minutes to being joined by Sonny Shipp. Sonny Shipp's going to kind of educate us on where the recruiting class is going for LSU and this team going into year 1. For the Bayou Bengals. How good can they be? Is a guy like Brian Thomas, who, I read some reports early that maybe, and even kind of Brian Kelly called him out. What kind of progress is he making? He was a 5-star talent that they kept from leaving the state, kept from going to Alabama. Is he going to make a leap this year at wide receiver? Butte, if he's healthy, could be, the best receiver in the SEC. He is that talented. He's a freakazoid. He's another one that stayed in state. Another Louisiana native, and per capita again, I think Florida produces the most talent, but Louisiana is up there with how many good players they have in the state and what you can do if you're LSU, and if you can keep 75-80% of these dudes from leaving and putting on the purple and gold, no doubt. But we're going to go on a break, and we come back on the Recruiting Blitz here on Blitz Sports Radio. Sonny Shipp, Go 24/7, and we're going to talk some Bayou Bengals recruiting. Stay with us.
This is Wes Neighbors with Philip with Eagle Insulation, and we have an announcement to make.
Yes, Wes, we are now Eagle Masonry and Insulation. Still a place to call for your insulation needs, but now we offer masonry services.
What kind of masonry projects can you handle?
Wes, no job is too big, no job is too small. We can do renovations, new construction, outdoor fireplaces, fire pits, brick landscape borders.
Well, when you came out to my house, you did both the insulation and masonry at the same time. You guys did rock for me, you did brick for me, and you insulated my house. That's usually done at the same time that you're building a house.
Absolutely. It really capitalizes on 2 services you need at the same time, and you can get one company to handle both of those.
Philip with Eagle Insulation will come out, do your installation. He'll do your masonry. They do a great job. They guarantee your work. Check out more online at insulatedwitheagle.com and schedule your free examination today. 256-755-1556.
Thanks, Wes.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding a solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Here's Bobby White from Woody Anderson Ford on their service department.
President's Award winner 2 years in a row. That's only given to the top 10% of Ford dealers in customer satisfaction. So we're very proud of the service department. And our body shop. If you happen to get into an accident, which not a lot of people just want to go down and see a body shop, but if you get into an accident, award-winning body shop. We have state-of-the-art paint booths back there. They're waterborne paints that we use, friendly for the environment. We've got our production system, the way things are in and out. We have the fastest cycle rate in town of getting your vehicle in, getting your vehicle out, and assured that it's fixed right. We take pictures before it's wrecked, and not only after, but we take it as we're putting the parts on. All done to above industry standards. So I'm proud of our body shop too. Don't forget our parts department. So you don't have to need parts, performance parts, or just parts if you're a weekend mechanic.
Woody Anderson Ford, located at the corner of Jordan and Sparkman, as well as Hughes Road and Madison. You can also check out the great deals at WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Look out in the street there. You know what you don't see? My car, because I had to sell it to pay the lawyer I hired when I got busted for drunk driving. You know what else you don't see? My girlfriend, who decided that a guy with no car and no license and no money was no fun. And hey, you know what else you don't see? You don't see me leaving for work in the morning, because I missed so much time with court and everything that I got fired.
Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. And we're going to go out to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. He's a frequent caller to Talking Ball, an avid listener to all of our shows on 97.7 The Zone and now on the Blitz Sports Radio. I'm sure he's already downloaded the app, and that is Brandon. Brandon calling in from the state of Georgia. Brandon, what's up?
I have the 97.7 app that I hit the button that goes to the Blitz. So
now you can download the Blitz app now, though. You need to do that, brother.
I'll probably work on that here in a little bit. You were talking about Miles and Brennan, and when I messaged you the other day when I saw that,
yeah,
I was shocked that he left, but I'm not shocked that he's not the starter. And I got a high school coach over here that I'm friends with. Mm-hmm. He's head coach, and he's in the same situation. He's got a guy that transferred in, and he's a sophomore. He feels like that him and the senior together are on about the same level. But this is his first year as head coach at this school, and he has said to me, you cannot afford to make a quarterback mistake in year one. You have got to have your guy. And I feel like with Brian Kelly that he's in that situation. There is so much pressure in that job that he has got to get it right. And hooking his wagon to Brennan is slightly inconsequential for Brennan because whether he has a good year or whether he has a bad year, he won't be back. And looking at that situation, I feel like he's got to look to the future. If you have a bad year with a new quarterback, at least you can say, hey, I came in, I played the young guys, I played the future. And looking forward, I mean, that decision could make or break your coaching career depending on who you go with as a starter, because I don't feel like this LSU team is talent-rich enough to overcome a bad decision at quarterback, do you?
Well, I think they've got to get consistent quarterback play. That's the key. I think they're going to be good defensively. I think they'll probably be one of the top 3 to 4 defenses in the SEC. I think they have skill talent. I think John Emery could end up breaking out. He was a former 5-star recruit, but he's been injured. And then last year, because of incompetence at the head coaching spot, he was ineligible. But Brian Kelly's done a great job with the running game wherever he's been and featuring tailbacks. But again, it all comes down to you got to be good at QB. I agree with you. So it's going to be interesting to see how much progress Garrett Nussmeier's made. But I think they brought in Jaden Daniels for a reason, because because, again, when Brian Kelly got there, Garrett Nussmeier was already on the roster. They got Walker Howard to stay committed and sign, Jamie Howard's son, 5-star. I think he probably needs to redshirt. And then they took a long look at Miles Brennan. Remember, they asked Miles Brennan to stay and come back out of the transfer portal. He was going to go somewhere else. But after they got the lay of the land, they felt like they needed another quarterback. And you've got Jaden Daniels with 30 starts of experience, kind of like Tyler Steen, who's, from what I hear, has looked better at left tackle than they ever anticipated. So hopefully he's going to be an upgrade for Alabama. But I just think if you're trying to establish your program with Brian Kelly, Jaden Daniels, with that experience, is probably going to win out and be your quarterback because you're trying to establish a winning culture in year one, and the best way to do that is to put an experienced guy behind center, not someone like a Garrett Nussmeier who I think has talent but has never played.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, did Nussmeier not make some Rose Bowl-ish demands about what he wanted to stay with that program? Am I imagining that, or did that happen?
We're going to ask our next guest. He's waiting to join us, Sonny Shipp from Go 24/7. We'll ask him about that and about Garrett Nussmeier. So we're going to get him on the phone here in a second, and that's a subject we can broach, Brandon. We can ask him about Garrett Nussmeier and his what he's hearing about his progress. Is he a serious candidate to win this job? Is it actually a race, or is Jaden Daniels the heavy favorite? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question to have.
And producer Mantra, Chad Watney, said to ask him have they seen the Miles Brennan TikTok video called Walk On, and wondered did that hurt his chances either. I'm going to check it out here just shortly.
Okay, man. Appreciate the phone call. Thank you for supporting the Blitz Sports Radio and the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. I'm Drew DeArmond. And now we're going to go out to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. He's set to join us. He's joined us many times on our sister station, ESPN 97.7 The Zone and Talking Ball. But he's been covering the Bayou Bengals for many, many years, and he does a great job for Go 24/7, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. And he's been with 24 years in the business, actually, covering LSU. And that's Sonny Shipp, and he's been good enough to join us. Sonny, welcome back to Huntsville, Alabama, and you're on the Blitz Sports Radio. Going to talk some Bayou Bengals today. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. And we just had a caller call in and ask about Garrett Nussmeier, and he wanted to know if there was some Rose Bowl-ish, as he put it, type demands that Garrett had following, I guess, the new regimen and the coaching change with Brian Kelly coming in. There's been some buzz about Garrett really stepping up and starting to mature. We know he hasn't gotten very much playing experience, if any, really, at LSU so far, but he came in with a good reputation. But they did decide to bring in Jaden Daniels, and now we've seen Miles Brennan in his star-crossed career retire from LSU. Where does this quarterback competition stand in your mind right now?
Well, I think it's I think you're looking at a two-horse race. I think Walker Howard, I think he might get a few more reps now. But I think that any thought of this being anything but a Jaden Daniels Garrett Nussmeier battle, Miles Brennan kind of took care of that when he decided to step away. Going into their big open scrimmage that they're gonna have for the media, we actually get to watch the whole thing starting in about 20 minutes.
Unbelievable. So, by the way,
yeah,
what
man,
access, man!
Super pumped about that. But so expecting to see a lot more of Jaden Daniels than Garrett Nussmeier with the first team. I expect Nussmeier to get those reps, and I think Nussmeier is going to play. But I think if you're looking at
Did we lose
Daniels? But whether he's QB1 when Tennessee comes to town or when they go to Auburn, I think that's going to be TBD, and that's because of the summer, of the spring, the summer, and then the early fall camp that Garrett Nussmeier has had before he dinged up his ankle just a little bit.
Oh, that's a very good intel there about Garrett Nussmeier getting a little banged up. But and Jaden Daniels does have 30 starts. He has a lot of experience. Now, he didn't have a great year at Arizona State, but a lot of that may have been his supporting cast. I still think LSU is kind of lying in the weeds. I think coaching matters. I think this coaching change is going to be great for everyone. But talk about what you've been, the little bit you've seen and you're hearing. And, of course, this scrimmage will be huge. But how has Jaden Daniels acclimated himself to the system under Brian Kelly so far?
So far from what we've been able to see, and we don't get to watch every practice, for the entirety every day or anything, but we do get about one a week. And so in that, you actually get to see, okay, who's taking the most reps with the first team, who's getting the most opportunities. And, but with Jaden Daniels, all we do is we see him throw the ball, really. You're not seeing any contact. You're not seeing them tackle him. You're not seeing him have to make plays where he's worried about getting hit. And so I think a big part of his game, you're not going to truly get a good picture of it until they step on the field against Florida State, until he steps in some live action. Because if we're judging Jaden Daniels just strictly based off of his passing ability, then I think you go into this as saying, like, okay, there's some serious question marks on this guy and how he's going to be able to lead this offense. However, when you combine, which is perhaps his strongest asset, him running the football, all of a sudden, it's a different discussion. So, I'm not expecting to leave this today and saying, oh, man, Jaden Daniels just looks great out there, because you're only going to see a part of his game. And so, I think it's going to be unfair to say, just how Jaden Daniels looks in fall camp, that's what LSU is going to get out of him because of that running ability that he brings to the equation.
Does, and that was a big key because of the rebuilding of the offensive line in the first year under Brian Kelly. But I will say this, speaking of recruiting, and that's the main focus of what we brought you in to talk about, a freakazoid, Will Campbell from the state of Louisiana, a guy that looks like he has the talent, Sonny, to be the left tackle from day one.
Hey, man, when a guy like Brian Kelly, who is going through his first practice ever at LSU, and he singles out a true freshman like Will Campbell at left tackle, and he says this guy's going to be really good, then you have to really think that, okay, this guy's going to be really good. Because Brian Kelly doesn't seem like the type that just tosses that out to too many true freshmen and their first collegiate practice. So I think that kind of gave us an idea right there of, okay, what they're expecting out of him and what they saw early on. But yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he's actually going to be an anchor on that left side by the time that they start getting into November and to the back half of that schedule. And one of the biggest question marks entering fall camp, it almost looks like you're starting to get a little of the first team offensive line solidified, especially with Garrett Dellinger now taking over at center.
Yeah, and of course, Dellinger never played the position, but I think they're optimistic. It sounds like they've got their 5 guys, but Will Campbell going to be a huge part of this, as you said. But right now, a very interesting staff put together by Brian Kelly. We talked about it in the opening segment. I think Matt House is going to do a great job. I think this defense is going to be sneaky good. I like a lot of the portal additions. I think their front 4 could be even the best in the SEC. Led by Jaquelin Roy, Mason Smith, and, of course, Ozolari and Ali Gay. Great front 4. But right now, 6th in the 24/7 Sports Composite recruiting rankings. They've got 8 kids committed from the state of Louisiana, and a mix on this coaching staff, Sonny, of guys like Frank Wilson that are extremely connected in the state, and then guys that have been with Brian Kelly that know his systems. An interesting staff.
Yeah, it is, and I think I think you're starting to see, go back and look at this latest run of commitments. LSU, they do have 8 from Louisiana right now, 21 overall. They entered the summertime, however, with only 1 from Louisiana. They went into July with only 1 from Louisiana. So just over these past 6 weeks, they've really kind of reap the benefits of all the work that they put in on the Louisiana front, and that was something that the staff took some criticism for early on. People just expected with you got Frank Wilson on staff, you got Cortez Hankton on staff, you got some Louisiana juice, some Louisiana blood, so we should just be able to just go in there and make up the ground on the Arch Mannings, the Tackett Curtises, the Jaden Osberries of the world, who had kind of already had one foot out the state, when going through the recruiting process when Kelly and them got here. But now you're starting to see those relationships that took a little time to build because they had such a diverse staff. You're starting to see some of those relationships kind of pay off, and I think you're going to really start to see it more in the 2024 class and then going forward to 2025. But there's no question that when you look at this class overall, those relationships that Kelly's, the Jamar Canes of the world, the Brian Polians, the guys who haven't really recruited Louisiana a lot before, but they had those relationships with prospects and schools from around the country. They've really been able to take advantage of those and really be able to just give this class a huge, huge bump. This was one that was ranked 49th in the country on June 30th. And
wow.
Now it's 6th. Yeah.
Well, and Sonny, have we underrated Brian Kelly as a recruiter? Because, I will say this. It's not easy to win at Notre Dame because of some of the academic hurdles you have to go over, the cold weather. They're not in a conference. Notre Dame still has a lot of panache, but still, it's one of those things. They haven't won a national title since 1988. But I thought when you look at it, being the all-time winningest coach there, I thought he did a remarkable job. I think he's a little bit of an underrated recruiter, and as they establish themselves at LSU, and especially with the culture he's already kind of putting in place there, I think they're going to be a recruiting force. What are your thoughts?
I think so too, and to say whether or not people undervalued him as a recruiter, I think that is very tough to gauge because, like you mentioned at Notre Dame, you don't have many kids in your backyard at South Bend like you do here at LSU and Baton Rouge,
yes,
New Orleans, and places like that. So you have to recruit nationally. I think it's a lot tougher to gauge someone as a recruiter at a place like that because the recruiting dynamic is just different than it's going to be at probably 98% of the other schools out there who have a base in their backyard. And so, it's going to be interesting to see. I think the biggest determinant of whether or not Kelly is underrated as a recruiter is going to be.
Did we lose you, Sonny? Okay.
Texas A&M's of the world. Can he keep them out of Louisiana? I think that's what's going to be what ultimately judges whether or not Brian Kelly's an undervalued recruiter.
Great stuff. Sonny Ship, Go 24/7 as we're talking LSU recruiting here on the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared on the Blitz Sports Radio. What have you liked so far the most about this class? As you said, it's really exploded since June the 30th and now went from 1 commitment in the state of Louisiana to 8, including getting one of the best athletes from St. James High School yesterday.
Yeah, I think you have to start with that wide receiver position. LSU only has 8 scholarship receivers on the roster right now. 2 of them are going to be gone after this year, in Keyshawn Butte and Jeray Jenkins, and so they really need to get a nice receiver haul in this class. And when you look at, you got Shelton Sampson, one of the very best in the country. Jalen Brown, also one of the very best in the country. You toss in 2 very versatile, dynamic guys with the ball in their hand, have a lot of speed as well, in Kai Preen and Kyle Parker, and you really have a solid nucleus right there of replenishing those ranks and really adding some, not only some quality but also some depth to that wide receiver room. And then there's still that big track athletic freak out there, Nicholas Harbor, who, I don't know what position he's going to likely play in college, but somebody's going to have to get the ball in that guy's hands because I don't see him putting on the weight to play defensive end. I think he's going to be a wide receiver or a tight end, and LSU is in the mix for him too. And so, when you look at that wide receiver haul and the prospects of where it could even go to next, if you could potentially add a guy like that, you have to feel really good about that room right now.
Well, and I think Brian Kelly did a pretty good job, wouldn't you say, with tight ends at Notre Dame?
Yes, very much so. And he also has the luxury of in 2024, Louisiana has the number 2 tight end in the country right now in Tradez Green, a big 6'8", 225-pound ball hawk out there. And so, when you the one position that you probably entered camp with as the biggest question mark of will LSU's offense be able to function the way they truly want it to be, was on the tight end position. Are they going to have the tight ends that they need and that they want to be able to operate that offense? I think that that's probably going to come next year when they're able to add a couple of more guys to that room. But that's definitely something that, you know, when you look at Brian Kelly's offenses, they could run the ball, they were physical, and they had those tight ends who could create some mismatches.
They certainly could, and if you're 6'8", wow, what a mismatch you could end up being potentially. That young man 2024 class within the Pelican State. And we're talking to Sonny Ship, Go 24/7, last few minutes with you. Sonny, with this recruiting class, 21 guys in it, but you can oversign this year. We know at the end of last year with the transfers, with the injuries, LSU only had 39 scholarship players at one point. You can go over 25 this year. I would think LSU almost assuredly will. Where are they do you think from a number standpoint? How many could we see in this class for Brian Kelly?
You know, I think, projecting that you're going to have 2, 3, maybe 4 guys going to test the portal after this season, you know, who's going to jump to the NFL and whatnot. I think that you're probably going to see this class reach anywhere from 31, 33, maybe even 34.
Wow.
And it's gonna have to, because there's 16. Well, with Miles Brennan now gone, there's 15 seniors or graduates, and 4 more guys who have an extra year of eligibility from the COVID year. So if you just say 2 of those guys would return, 17. Then you add about 4 or 5 potential. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at 22 or 23. Guys gone off of a roster that's probably sitting somewhere around 75, 76, maybe 77 right now. So all of a sudden you start to see where, okay, this roster could be back around 50, 51, 52, you know, come December. And so, you know, it's not hard to see this class reaching that low to possibly as high as mid-30s when you count in the transfers.
Yeah, and Sonny, from a standpoint of this class has really started to take shape, as you said, in the last month and a half for LSU, now up to number 6 in the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. From a standpoint of need, they've started to fill that wide receiver room up, and you said they needed to get their numbers up and their talent. What's some of the other biggest positions of need for LSU in this class going forward that they need to fill?
Yeah, I think you would like to add, a pass catching tight end. One like, you mentioned with Trades Green, Nicholas Harbor, kind of in that mode that you can flex out, you can create some matchups with. They've got a very good inline guy in Mac Markway, probably one of the best blocking tight ends in the country. They've got him on board, so they have that part of the tight end equation kind of set. So I think that athletic pass catching tight end would be up there. You want to add another lineman or two. You really want to replenish those offensive line ranks, particularly a center. DJ Chester, a guy out of Georgia, I think he's the number 7 or number 8 offensive tackle in the country. He's a guy who could potentially come in, maybe play on the edge, maybe play center. So that's those are 2 positions right there that they want to hit. And then when you look at the secondary really needs, the cornerback ranks really need to be replenished. You could potentially lose your top 4 cornerbacks off of this year's roster. You've already lost one to the transfer portal in Jordan Tolles. So you're only going to have, not counting this class, you're only going to have about 2 to 3 corners on the roster, scholarship corners, after this season. So that's going to be really important to replenish those ranks. And they've already got a good secondary haul right now, but you're definitely going to see them add some more guys to it.
Yeah, and they really have. And lately they've certainly added to that. In the last few days, they added 2 big-time pieces to the class, and from in the secondary, Kylan Jackson. We talked to David Brewerton, his head coach, already on the Recruiting Blitz, and he said Kylan was getting ready to make his decision from Zachary, Louisiana, state champions in 5A. He chooses the LSU Tigers. And then, as we talked about, Kai Preen, very versatile guy, could end up on offense, but still someone that could play on either side of the ball. He commits to LSU yesterday. As we're wrapping it up with you, Sonny, who's a kid maybe to watch the rest of this month that may go public and that LSU's in strong shape for?
Oh, Zalance Hurd, the big offensive tackle. He's a top 100 offensive tackle up at Neville High School up in Monroe, Louisiana. He's going to announce on September 1st. I think that's going to be, more good news for LSU, and that's going to really give them, when you look at the offensive line commitments that they will have at that time. You've already got a very good edge protector in Tyree Adams out of St. Aug High School down in New Orleans. You had a guy like Zalance Hurd, and your Brian Kelly is keeping those. Offensive tackles don't grow on trees down here in Louisiana. Cornerbacks and receivers do, but not the big uglies. And so when you've got two of them in your backyard and you're able to keep them here, then that's a very good sign. And so, getting him on board will really just bolster that offensive line class and just make it even stronger than it already is.
Well, great stuff, great intel, talking LSU recruiting and LSU Tigers. Enjoy the scrimmage. I'm a little jealous. Over here in Alabama right now, we don't get any access like that at the University of Alabama. They get about 20 minutes at Auburn, but a whole scrimmage to take in. That's going to be quite a lot of great coverage from Go 24/7, a lot of intel, a lot of great action to see, and jobs being won. But let everybody know how to follow your coverage. I know, as you said, it's just going to start here in a few minutes.
Yeah, come check us out, Go 24/7, GEAUX247.com. You can follow us on Twitter. But, yeah, we'll have a ton of updates and stuff throughout the day, and, anxious to see how these quarterbacks look because, like you said, that's the hot topic, and it's definitely going to be the big storyline leading up to that Labor Day weekend matchup.
No question. Well, Sonny, we always appreciate it. Thank you for being so generous with us and joining us on the Recruiting Blitz, our new show here in Week 3 on Blitz Sports Radio. We look forward to catching up with you again soon. Appreciate it and have a great time covering that scrimmage, and we look forward to your coverage, and thank you for the time.
Absolutely, man. Anytime, and good luck with the show, buddy.
Thank you. That's Sonny Shipp. As you just heard, just an encyclopedia when it comes to LSU Bayou Bengals football recruiting. Brian Kelly and his staff put together a very strong class. It's really come together since June the 30th, up to number 6 in the 24/7 Sports Composite Rankings. And we're going to go on a break. When we come back, final segment of this edition on Wednesday of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. Stay with us.
The Blitz has been called. Bailey Custom Boats. We knew our boats were special when we would stop at any outdoor store to stock up on supplies for a boat trip, only to come back out to the parking lot and see people standing on and around our boat and a confused sales rep telling them it's not for sale and they don't even have that type of boat. Fast forward a few years, and now you can buy your very own one-of-a-kind Bailey Custom Boat. We hand cut our wood from cypress we pull from the river in Mississippi. There's a lifetime warranty on the bill. Faster and more maneuverable like a ski boat, and better fuel mileage than any pontoon on the market. With 350 horsepower, a Bailey custom boat will go 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds. And our custom boats are Coast Guard approved for offshore and virtually unsinkable. We'll be showcasing our custom boats at different lakes over the next few weeks. Find out where at BaileyCustomBoats.com. On YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We're taking orders now for 2023 delivery from April to May. You gotta pay to play. BaileyCustomBoats.com.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding a solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
This is Wes Neighbors with Philip with Eagle Insulation, and we have an announcement to make.
Yes, Wes, we are now Eagle Masonry and Insulation. Still a place to call for your installation needs, but now we offer masonry services.
What kind of masonry projects can you handle?
Wes, no job is too big, no job is too small. We can do renovations, new construction, outdoor fireplaces, fire pits, brick landscape borders.
Well, when you came out to my house, you did both the insulation and masonry at the same time. You guys did rock for me, you did brick for me, and you insulated my house. That's usually done at the same time that you're building a house.
Absolutely. It really capitalizes on two services you need at the same time, and you can get one company to handle both of those.
Philip with Eagle Insulation will come out, do your installation. He'll do your masonry. They do a great job. They guarantee your work. Check out more online at insulatedwitheagle.com and schedule your free examination today. 256-755-1556.
Thanks, Wes.
Any Jane Doe can tell you that Geico could help you save. But since money talks, we just ask the savings instead.
Greetings and some salutations. I'm Jane's Money, and I never knew my self-worth until Jane switched her car insurance at Geico.com. Those 15 minutes built me up to real savings. Geico's been helping customers save money like me for over 75 years. So take that to the bank. And namaste.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Blitz on this Wednesday with D Squared, Drew DeArmond, and we're bringing you an hour of recruiting conversation. We got a few minutes left. You want to join us, 256-576-4977 on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Had our first caller of the show in our third week as we've been getting this streaming channel established. And again, you can go to the Apple Store now, download the Blitz Sports Radio app. Do that, please. Also, you can do it on Android. Just add that and download that app. But again, we want you to do that and continue to join us on the Blitz Sports Radio here. But we're wrapping up this edition of the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. We just talked to Sonny Ship, talked some LSU football recruiting, and some more news that could be good for Alabama. One of the best, defensive line prospects in the country, 4-star prospect from North Kansas City, Missouri, North Kansas City High School. He had a really good camp at Alabama, 6'3", 290 pounds. Edric Hill has just announced that he will be committing on August the 22nd. I think Alabama's the big favorite here. Certainly Alabama's had a couple of high-profile misses in state. 5-star Peter Woods from Thompson High School in Alabaster. He goes to Dabo Sweeney in Clemson. And then, as we talked about, Kelby Collins this past Saturday commits to Florida from Gardendale, Alabama, a 4-star prospect. But Edric Hill could be the second piece to a solid beginning to what needs to be a good 5 to 6-man group for Alabama in this 2023 class. Alabama with the number one recruiting class consensus right now in the country. Edric Hill would certainly help that, and he would join Hunter Osborne, another 4-star prospect from Hewitt-Trussville High School in Trussville, Alabama. Coach Josh Floyd does a great job. We hope to have him on the Recruiting Blitz to talk about that young man and the kids in his program that are impacting college football at Auburn, at Alabama. But again, Edric Hill, North Kansas City, looks like he will commit on August the 22nd. We had been hearing, and he had tweeted recently that he was going to have a commitment date coming up. Some thought it would be within a month. Now it's going to just be within a few days. Again, it'll be in about a little less than a week's time as we are, as it is right now, August the 17th. So in about 5 days, he's going to go public, but we think Alabama is trending heavily here for Edric Hill. Freddie Roach, I've been critical of him lately, but he was basically the lead recruiter for this young man. Looks like Edric Hill could be the next piece of the puzzle for the University of Alabama. He also had offers from LSU, Oklahoma, Oregon, USC. I mean, heavily recruited kid. a guy that's been compared to Fedarian Mathis, who had a great career at the University of Alabama after leaving the Pelican State, did not stay home and play for LSU, became a second-round draft pick of the Washington Commanders, going to be playing with his former teammate B-Rob, Brian Robinson. Both of them probably going to be big parts of that Washington football team under Ron Rivera this year. But again, Edric Hill, watch that commitment coming up. I think Alabama could get some more good news. We want to thank Sonny Ship, want to thank Brandon, want to thank all of our listeners. And again, download that app in the Apple Store, the Blitz Sports Radio. I'm Drew DeArmond, D Squared. It's been another great edition of the Recruiting Blitz. We'll talk to you tomorrow from 9 to 10 a.m. Don't forget the Blitz. Later today, our main program, 2 to 4, our daily sports radio talk program there. Again, we've got a trio of stars there that are going to bring you great sports talk, led by my producer extraordinaire, Mike Honcho there, Smokey Mike, Bailey Lowry, and, of course, John Abraham. Catch the Blitz from 2 to 4. I'm Drew DeArmond, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming.
As they blank the Mets on Tuesday night.
A-list season ticket members receive the best seats at the lowest prices. First access to postseason tickets and so much more. Learn more at Braves.com/A-list.
Tuesday night at Truist Park, the Braves picked up another victory over the visiting Mets by a score of 5-0. Braves would get a run in the bottom of the third on a solo homer from Robbie Grossman, his third of the season and his first in an Atlanta uniform. Then after Austin Riley drew a walk to start the bottom of the fourth, up stepped Matt Olson looking to add to the lead.
One to Olson. There's a deep drive to right, way back, and the Braves hit another bomb.
For Olson, his 25th homer of the season traveled 443 feet to the chop house in right field. Braves would tack on 2 more in the 7th on a single and an E7 off the bat of Dansby Swanson. And 2 batters later, Matt Olson added another RBI single, making it a 5-0 affair. Charlie Moore